This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our Patreon. If you want to tell us which films we should watch or get 2 extra exclusive podcasts a month, then please consider becoming a patron and joining us at www.patreon.com/cultpopture.
Things aren't good, Richard.
Oh, what's going on, mate?
Mate, I am sick as a dog. I'll be editing out all my sniffles on my audio track this episode.
Rather than mine, like you normally do.
Yeah, well, I'll have to edit out both of ours. Like that one, which you wouldn't have heard. It's freezing in my house. I have this thing, I don't know if I've talked about this on pod before, but my feet get real cold, like all the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, well, so for the last, maybe 3 years, every winter, my feet have been cold maybe, 65% of the time.
Wow.
To have them warm is a luxury, you know? They get cold in bed now. I'll be sleeping and warm, and then they'll just go, oh, it's time to be cold. And then they'll get they're cold right now, and I've covered them in blankets, but that only helps sometimes. It's completely random and arbitrary.
Have you put socks on?
Yeah, I've tried everything, man.
Oh.
The only things that work are real annoying solutions, like having a foot bath and stuff, which is and that only works for when they're in the foot bath.
Wow, I had no idea.
So,
I knew about that time you had gout.
Yeah, no, this is different to the gout. Yeah, so my house is real cold, and then this morning, we're recording this the Sunday before the Monday that we release this episode, and this is sort of we usually try to do it maybe a couple days earlier than this, but, schedules and shit turned into this, and we have to do it in the morning as well, which, being quite ill, I was like, all right, getting up any time before noon is going to be something I'm going to have to push for and try pretty hard to do, because I kind of just wanted to sleep all day, And then I went and had a shower, and we have no hot water, which is the fourth time this has happened. I don't know why it happens. It always seems to happen to me because no one else talks about it in my flat until I have a shower. So I was just standing in a cold shower this morning, swearing my lungs out at the world.
Do you have a hot water cylinder that runs out, or is your hot water actually getting turned
run
off?
by gas.
Right.
So the gas runs out. So I switched gas tanks and then turned the shower back on, and it was hot, and I got in, and then it turned cold when I got in there. And I was like, you son of a bitch. You punked me.
Yeah.
Stupid shower. So I've got my coffee. I had some eggs on toast, but I think I burnt everything, so it tasted real shit. I'm not in a good mood, Richard. But you know what? At least we get to talk about some fantastic movies.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've got news for you, buddy. We don't.
Oh, no.
We get to talk about A Cinderella Story. The
Cool.
4 films.
Because this is, of course, for our new listeners,
yes.
film franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast. My name is AJ, and over there is Richard.
Hello.
Recording in different cities.
Yeah.
So let's start bringing that
AJ's in your right ear, I'm in your left ear.
Oh, well. Not exactly, but...
Well, you could do that, though.
I could, but it'd be very annoying. I don't think it'd be pleasant to listen to.
Just for that when I say that.
Okay, I'll do it just for that. It's going to be so annoying.
Because people listening in one ear will be like, what?
Yeah. I'm in your right ear. No, because you said both lines. So I won't say anything responding to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so we watch film franchises on this podcast every fortnight, and this week we land. It's usually either randomly decided or decided by our patrons. This week was randomly decided, and we landed on the 4-film series, A Cinderella Story. Take it away, Richard.
Okay, so A Cinderella Story is a film franchise of 4 films, as you've mentioned. This consists of A Cinderella Story in 2004, another Cinderella Story in 2008, A Cinderella Story Once Upon a Song in 2011, and A Cinderella Story If the Shoe Fits in 2016. Now, these are the kind of movies where they take the story of Cinderella, the Cinderella story, if you will, and sort of mold it into modern times. So they use cell phones, for instance, and they retell a story in a way that modern audiences can comprehend. So the first one was directed by Mark Rosman, and what's that one about, AJ?
It's about exactly what you said. I mean, it's got Hillary Duff in it as the Cinderella character,
and Chad Michael Murray, and
as the Prince Charming character,
and Jennifer Coolidge as the
evil stepmother.
And these films do quite a fun thing of mainly the Cinderella and the stepmother sort of downgrade every single film a little bit. I mean,
this is a hard thing to explain, but I know we both know exactly what we mean.
Yeah,
it's kind of like if you were to be like, oh, we can't get Hillary Duff back for the sequel. Who do we get instead?
Yeah.
It's Selena Gomez. Oh, then the third one. We can't get Selena Gomez back for the third film. Who do we get instead? It's like every single time those two, because they're not playing the same character, they're playing the same role.
It's the same archetype.
Yeah. Every single person they cast is actually like
the discount version of the previous one.
Yeah, but it's exponential, right? So like, by the time you get to the fourth one, we'll get to it later, I'm sure, but the actors in that are like, you maybe heard of one of them, but only if you're like pretty into like certain niche parts of we'll get into it more, I'm sure, but it is astonishing casting to get to the next movie and be like, of course that's the discount version of the last actress.
Yeah. So do you want to explain more what it's about?
Sure. So
the actual plot.
Hillary Duff's character, I don't remember any of the characters' names. They're not Cinderella or anything. But she is
Hillary
like
Duff's character is Sam Montgomery.
Sam.
And the Prince Charming is Austin.
So she had a real close relationship with her dad, and then her dad married Jennifer Coolidge, and then her dad died. And what is a scene that is pretty grim, but they kind of brush over it because it's such a light puff piece movie that it's like, yeah, my dad died in an earthquake. Anyway, life sure is hard for me now with my crazy stepmom, and it's like, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Like, you see the scene, you see the earthquake happens, and he's like, stay here, and runs out of the room, and whatever way he died, like, that's a horrific death, whatever way you slice it, and they're just like, yeah, he died. All right, plot. And so she now works in what was her dad's, but now her stepmother's diner. And her stepmother rules over her with an iron fist. And there's a school ball that's like a masquerade ball. And Austin, who's the hot guy, is going to be going there. But the two of them haven't talked in real life, but they have connected through an online message board. But they don't know each other are each other. And so...
It's a message board because they're going to the same college.
Yeah.
And so it's like, people who are going to this college, sign up here. And so, yeah, they're like
r/Princeton, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they know that both of them are going to the ball, and they meet up at the ball, and she knows it's Austin because it's Austin. He's the most popular boy in school, but he doesn't recognize her as Sam. But before she takes her mask off, she has to run back to the diner by midnight, because that's when her stepmom's going to check on her. And so then it's like, Austin's like, oh, I'm in love with this girl. Who is she? And he searches throughout the whole school trying to find her. A bunch of shit happens. One of the main...
Because she left her phone.
Yeah, instead of a glass slipper, it's her phone. One of the main conceits of this film that I found very hard to buy into was how seriously they take... like the class structure of high school like scenes, I guess, because when everyone finds out who's who, it's like, oh my god, Austin, the popular boy in school, is in love with a girl who works at a diner, and it's
diner
like,
girl they call her.
Yeah, diner. What the fuck? Like, who gives a shit? Like,
it's she has a job and an income.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's this weird ass like oh, she doesn't have, people waiting on her hand and foot. That means that she's a lesser citizen. It's so weird. And it'd be less weird if, like, the reality of the film allowed for that. But the two main characters in particular are painted as such reasonable people that it's like, yeah, this is just who you guys wouldn't care if you found out the girl you were dating was a diner girl.
Well, he doesn't really care, but she's humiliated in front of the whole school when the popular girls, Shelby Cummings...
Yeah. And they never make a Shelby coming round the mountain joke. Why would you call the character Shelby Cummings without intention?
They find out who it is, that it's Sam, the diner girl, and they put on like a play for the whole school, which is like reveals that Austin's been in love with Diner Girl, and she's like, "How could you? I'm just plain old Hillary Duff. No one could ever be attracted to me."
Yeah, plain old, literally the most attractive person in this film, Hillary Duff. She confronts him at his football game, and she's mad at him. And in my head, I was like, "She's mad at him." I wouldn't
you
even
stormed off.
Yeah, not for 1 second did I ever consider she would be angry at him. It was such a weird moment. And then she's like, waiting for you is like waiting for rain in a drought, pointless and disappointing. And it's like this line, but it's also like, it's not a good line. It's not.
Yeah, just say, like, you don't need to clarify. We understand what waiting for rain in a drought is like.
Yeah. What is waiting for rain in a drought like?
I mentioned it would be quite
fulfilling,
quite fruitful. Yeah.
And it's funny because there is like, I want to say B plot, but it's more like an F plot that their town has been in a drought. And I bet you they came up with that line first, and they're like, "What? Why is she talking about a drought? It seems kind of unprompted." And then they were like,
"Oh, we'll just take it out." And then they're like, "No,
let's go back. Let's go back and add in that there's a drought happening in the town." But it's mentioned like twice at the beginning, and then at the end when the story's resolved and they kiss, it starts raining.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool.
Because the drought cares.
Yeah. So yeah. Not a great movie. I really like Jennifer Coolidge, so I really liked her in this. This is our third Jennifer Coolidge franchise. Is that correct?
Whoa, that's a big call. Let me.
I think American Pie and Legally Blonde are our only other Jennifer Coolidge franchises.
Do you want to quickly stall while I look that up?
Hey everybody, it's me, Stuart the Staller, and I'm here to stall. What have you guys been doing? That's great. Oh yeah. What are you doing to find the answer to this? Are you like scrambling through each of our episodes and trying to?
Yeah, I'm listening to all of our episodes at like super high speed to try and figure out if she's been in them. No, she's actually in Austin Powers as well.
Is she?
Yeah, she plays woman at football game.
Wow. Our fourth Jennifer. She's becoming an MVP.
There she is.
Along with Richard Reel. And what's the guy?
Clint Howard.
And no, the guy who plays Booger, who looks like Richard Reel and Clint Howard.
I don't remember his name. Do you want to explain this for for our newer listeners?
What am I explaining?
Who Richard Reel and Booger are?
They're just character actors who have kind of, you would recognize them if you saw them. You might not know them by name, but they kind of make their bread from being in straight to DVD sequels to franchises, so we come across them a lot.
Yeah. All right. So, some little. Well, actually, no. First off, what do you think this film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
It'll have like a critic score of like 30 and an audience score of like 70.
So it's got you're right that it does have a critics and audience score, and the audience score is higher. Mm-hmm. The audience score is 54%.
Oh, that's not even
the
that
critics
much.
score is 12.
Yeah, I don't think this is a very good movie.
I mean, like, it's not really. But,
no, it's maybe not 12%, but like
12%. I was like, that's devastating.
Yeah. It is a movie that is like, here's because we talked about the you messaged me earlier this week, and you were like, after you'd watched the first one, you're like, man, I'm not looking forward to the diminishing returns on this podcast. You know, like the first one and they each get worse as they go along. I don't know if I necessarily felt that to any extreme level. They set a bar with the first one, and then none of the rest of them kind of move from that bar, in my opinion.
Yeah. They're actually semi-consistent.
Yeah, they're semi-consistent and very easy to watch and very short as well.
Yeah. But so Chad Michael Murray the Hollywood's hunk of 2004 wasn't always playing Austin.
Oh my gosh.
Rupert Grint was actually originally cast,
Weird.
but had to pull out because of filming for Prisoner of Azkaban.
Do you reckon you can make Rupert Grint a heartthrob? Because Chad Michael Murray is like designed in a factory.
Yeah.
Whereas Rupert Grint is like charming because of his
It's like
oddness.
Yeah. What the byproduct of what that factory produces.
Yeah. The offcut.
Yeah. One thing I should say I really like about this film though is it's got quite a good soundtrack. Because one of these things that it was like the only thing I knew about this film before seeing it, and I think it's one of those weird movies that watching it, I'm like, maybe 60% of this I know I've definitely seen before. I think it was on TV like 4 or 5 years ago, and I saw most of it. But yeah, it had the soundtrack includes a couple of songs from like kind of obscure-ish bands that I like, and songs by them that I really like, because during the like final football game, it plays a song called "Hear You Me" by Jimmy Eat World, which is like one of my favorite songs of all time. And also there's like a makeover montage to a song called "Falling for You" by Busted, who I've mentioned a few times on the podcast, and actually I believe today an episode of a Busted podcast that I guest starred on is being released. Not about Falling for You, though they do have an episode about Falling for You. But check that out, a podcast for everyone. I had a great time talking about
it's called a podcast for everyone. You might have missed that because it's quite a casual name.
It's called a podcast for everyone, and it's two British guys that host it, and it's like, it's criminal that it's a shame that the subject of their podcast is so niche because they're so funny. So check it out. We'll probably share a link to it.
I'll put a link in the show notes. To the episode.
To my episode, we'll share it on our social media as well, just to help out our little guys across several ponds. But it's a very very funny podcast, so I recommend checking it out, even if you have no interest in Busted.
You say several ponds, but there's only one pond, baby. It's just real big.
It's all one pond.
It's real big.
So, one thing as well, a little bit of randomly placed trivia for you. This film also stars, we haven't mentioned, it stars Regina King, who you may remember won an Oscar earlier this year for her performance in If Beale Street Could Talk.
For her performance in A Cinderella Story. It was a bit delayed, a bit belated, but they were like, you know what? We should have given it to you in 2004.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's like when Leo won. It's like one of those makeup Oscars for their career.
She plays the like real life application of the fairy godmother in this film.
Yeah. So this is only the second time where we have watched a film franchise containing an actor the same year that they won an Oscar.
What is the other one?
Gary Oldman in Kung Fu Panda 2.
Gary Oldman in Kung Fu Panda 2 is a sentence I am in love with. That's so great.
So there's a couple that we missed by like a year. So like Frances McDormand won in 2018 for a 2017 film, and we covered Transformers 3 in 2017. So but she didn't actually win in 2017. So but there's a few like Leo and Critters 3 we did like a year after.
You say Clitters? All right, I'm sorry, continue. Leo and Critters 3.
Sam Rockwell, he's in 102 Dalmatians, and so there's like all these ones that we just missed.
I love this podcast. I love the mythology of this show that we can say Sam Rockwell and 102 Dalmatians or Gary Oldman and Kung Fu Panda 2.
Yeah. So and also this is our second Regina King, Jennifer Coolidge movie after Legally Blonde 2. Although if you're going off just films that we've mentioned on the podcast, it's the third after Down to Earth, which Chris Weitz directed, and I talked to him about for probably longer than it deserves.
And he would agree with that, but the sounds of how much he wanted to talk about. Cool.
Did you have anything more to say about the first Cinderella Story? Not getting into spoilers for the second one just yet.
Not in the immediate. Maybe I will later on, but not right now. I'll see if I can remember anything later on.
Okay, well, next up we have another Cinderella Story. Came out in 2008, directed by Damon. Oh God,
Lindelof.
Damon Santostefano.
Did he direct a Bring It On film?
He did.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was going to try and get in contact with him, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
So this one stars
Which Bring It On did he direct? Do you remember?
Again, I think.
Was it again? Okay. No, he does sequels where the title is, making fun of the fact that it's another title, another sequel.
That's really his
bread and butter.
His go-to thing.
The only other example of this I can think of is the Paul Jennings book, The Gizmo, has a sequel called The Gizmo Again.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other examples.
Yeah, we'll write them down.
Send them in if you can think of another one. So anyway, this in the role of Hillary Duff's role stars Selena Gomez. In the Chad Michael Murray role, it stars Drew Seeley, who you might remember as being Troy's singing voice from High School Musical 1.
So our second Drew Seeley franchise.
And in the evil Wicked Stepmother role played originally by Jennifer Coolidge, we have Jane Lynch from Glee.
Now, this is a bit our theory about the downgrade theory. I feel like Jane Lynch might be the anomaly here, if there is an anomaly, because I feel like Jennifer Coolidge and Jane Lynch are maybe as famous as each other. They're not necessarily.
But I think in their respective time when the films were made, Jane Lynch would be cheaper.
Yeah, because this is before Glee or during Glee. No, it's before Glee. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas like the first one was hot off the heels of the American Pie sequels.
Yeah, true. Which it shared an audience with a Cinderella Story, naturally.
Selena Gomez, I'd say, is probably more famous than Hillary Duff, but this is 2008 we're talking as well.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well is that this theory of the downgrade theory is I feel like it's more prominent with the stepmothers, whereas with the Cinderellas, it's like who is big at the moment, who we can give us like when the Disney Hollywood whatever system is like, we're gonna make you famous, we've decided we're gonna manipulate media to make you famous, they chuck you a Cinderella Story. Here's a Cinderella Story you can star in.
So what's this one about? Do you remember?
It's ostensibly the same movie. The biggest difference in this one is that and this is something that I think all three sequels do, is that the Prince Charming character is now both a like famous celebrity and one of their classmates. And it's like, I feel like you can pick one or the other. And oh, that's right, Jane Lynch plays a pop star in this, so she's famous as well, but it's like it's not treated as like ironic that she's like in her 40s and a pop star.
Well, no, I think she's like a faded pop star because she's doing like a commercial for Backney when we meet her.
Yeah, true. I don't know, there was something it felt like they wanted the cake and to have their cake and eat it too, with like the stepmother's a famous pop star, but she also is played by someone who wouldn't be a pop star. So yeah, they there's nothing. She loses, instead of her cell phone or a glass slipper, she loses her iPod, her Zune, our second Zune franchise after Guardians of the Galaxy. And instead of like trying on the slipper, it's like, tell me what your top 5 songs on your Zune are. It's more of this. I wish I could give you more specifics, but it's honestly basically the same thing. It's just it's Selena Gomez now, and there's
it's one of those things like we've talked about, like iconic franchise elements that are actually introduced in the second, or like aren't in the first one. Which is Phoebe, if you're listening to this, don't steal this from Watch Mojo unless you want to credit me. So there's quite a few things that things that you associate with a franchise, but they're actually only in the second or third onwards. And this one, it's like, if this was an iconic franchise, this would be one. The fact that all the sequels are about like music, that they're all about like the Chad Michael Murray type is like a famous singer, and she's an aspiring singer, and then they do a duet at the end, like,
which we've seen before with Land Before Time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange.
There's a really cool scene in this one, probably the coolest scene of the franchise. This might be my least favorite movie in the franchise, but is the coolest scene where the Prince Charming is teaching a bunch of his fellow students and also fans how to dance in this dance studio, and Selena Gomez's character is behind a one-way mirror so she can see him but he can't see her, and there's the scene where they dance together but he doesn't know he's dancing with her, and it's well made. It's a cool little scene that kind of portrays the heart of the story quite well, because she feels invisible to him, and da.
Is this the one as well where they her stepsisters humiliate her by showing the Chad Michael Murray type that she was a fan of his growing up?
Yeah, and they get an actress who's supposed to be young Selena Gomez, but the age discrepancy between them is so how old was.
It's like 11 to 16 kind of thing.
And they get a completely different actress for her. But she's talking about how she loves, I can't remember the character's name, she loves the Prince Charming character.
Joey Parker.
Joey Parker. She's like, I love you, Joey Parker. And it's like, how old was Joey Parker when she was like 11?
Yeah.
They don't really, presumably they're the same age, which means he was an 11-year-old pop star, which isn't outside of possibility, but still kind of swept under the rug.
But it's also like, yeah, whatever, I was a fan of yours, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're big humiliating acts in these films. It's just like, yeah.
Oh, it's consistent. It's that the characters are humiliated by something which, if happened to me, I'd be like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Oh, I work at a diner. Okay. Oh, I was a fan of yours. Wasn't that obvious already? I don't really. The one thing I'll give this movie as well is that the reveal that when they find out who's who, that he finds out who she is, because they meet at another masquerade ball, it happens a lot earlier in the film, and it can be about other stuff going forward instead of
that's the point.
Other ones which kind of save it till the end.
Yeah.
Because there's another thing in this movie is of course, in all of these movies, when the Prince Charming announces that he's looking for his Cinderella, a bunch of girls try and line up and fake their way in, as is in the original Cinderella story, I presume. Watching these, I was like, I don't actually know what happens in between her losing her slipper and him putting the slipper back on her.
Well, he goes around town and says, I'm looking for the foot that fits this glass slipper, and everyone's like, me, and in the original book or whatever it is, I'm pretty sure the stepsisters mutilate their feet to try and fit them in, and it's like one of those things you're not going to see this in the Disney version.
Yeah, it's a Brothers Grimm thing, I think.
Yeah.
So all the girls line up to be like, I'm actually the girl you were looking for. I'm actually the girl you were looking for. But the disguise that the Cinderellas in every movie, the disguise that the Cinderellas have, isn't enough for you to not know basic what they look like. He knows Hillary Duff is blonde because she's not covering up her hair, and then these brunettes can be like, I'm the girl you're looking for, and et cetera, and at no point does he go well, I know this much about the what she looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not even clear that he thinks, oh, she was probably wearing a wig or something,
Yeah. That would save it, right? Yeah. Especially in the third one, they meet at an Arabian themed party, and she's wearing a veil where you can see her face behind it.
So one annoying thing about this film is the IMDb trivia for it isn't even that funny,
No.
They're just like, oh yeah, this is just trivia about the film. Although if you go on Wikipedia, the cast includes Maurice the Zune.
Mm.
So I presume, I don't know if that's a joke from the credits or someone's just playing cheeky buggers with the Wikipedia page.
We're certainly not going to rewatch the movie to see if it actually is in the credits.
So I guess we'll just move right along to A Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song. That came out in 2011. It was also directed by Damon. No last name. Santo Stefano. And this one, instead of Hillary Duff or Selena Gomez, it stars the next logical person, Lucy Hale from Pretty Little Liars and Truth or Dare. And the matriarch is played by Missy Pyle.
Perfect. This was what
Yeah.
made me realize the theory. We go from Jennifer Coolidge to Jane Lynch to Missy Pyle. And I love all of these actresses. They're all fantastic. They're all so good and like how
Missy Pyle's one of those actresses as well. If you don't know who she is, look up now because you recognize her from something.
Yeah.
And she's one of those actresses that like I see all the time. And before I like learnt her name, I was like, what's the Missy Pyle role that I know her from? And I could never figure it out.
Yeah,
She's a lot of things though. She's in Gone Girl. She plays she plays a parody of that woman, and I don't know her.
She's
can't
in
remember her
the
name.
first episode of Pushing Daisy season 2.
Oh
That's
yeah,
one of the main roles. I bet she's in an episode of Malcolm in the Middle. I bet you $100 she's in a Malcolm
Okay.
in the Middle episode.
She is not.
Well, you'll see that in your bank account shortly.
Yeah, she pops up in TV shows a lot, and she often plays a similar character to the one she plays here. She's got kind of like an evil face.
She's very neurotic, evil kind of type.
Yeah, but she's great.
Yeah, she's great. And she's great in this movie as well, this might even be my favorite one. I might even like this more than the first one, but I don't like any of them, so bear that in mind. This is the sexiest one of the 4.
Oh hell yeah!
Because I kind of assumed. Do you know what company produced these or distributed these movies? Do you know? Because you would think with the likes of Hillary Duff and Selena Gomez, it'd be like Disney or Nickelodeon.
Yeah, Warner Premiere.
Yeah, these aren't actually associated with any like wholesome brand, and so I was quite surprised.
So you see full frontal nudity.
Well, no, not exactly, but like at one point in this film, Lucy Hale's character gets trapped outside naked and has to like run around like covering herself up with like pot plants and a doormat.
Yeah.
And then she like runs into the Prince Charming, and it's very like ooh, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then later on, like he was flirting with you. Of course, he was flirting. I was naked.
Yeah, and there's a few other moments where it's like they're not. It's like because I think with a lot of maybe if this was Disney or Nickelodeon, there might be like sexual references, but they'll be like more in how it's played than what they're saying. But in this, it actually gets downright grotesque, Richard. It gets downright graphic compared to something like Camp Rock, you know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I thought there was potential in this series to be a bit more grounded in realism, maybe with all of that. But no. So this one, the plot is that her stepsister is the one that Missy Pyle wants Prince Charming to get with, but she can't sing, and Prince Charming's a famous singer again, and so she gets through a series of like funny things happening. Lucy Hale proves that she can sing, and so Missy Pyle constructs it so that it's like it's actually her real daughter.
Yeah, it's like the sequels use a lot of like sitcom tropes, and this has the one of like you go on the date and I'll be in your ear telling you what to say.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And there's another one in the last one which we'll get to, but yeah, I know what you mean about this kind of almost being your favorite, because in this one as well, I hated the stepsister the least as well.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that. So usually they have 2 stepsisters. This one has a stepsister and a stepbrother who's like a borderline sex pest because he's the one who locks her outside naked.
He's the worst. He never really gets enough comeuppance.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the stepsister, while she is, the bad guy for a lot of it, towards the end, she's talking to the main character, and she's like, she's basically confessing that she doesn't feel like she's good enough, and it's quite a sad scene where you're like, oh, I'm going to feel sorry for you now. But then the film still ends with her getting humiliated because they show during a live performance that she isn't the one singing, and then the main character comes out and she was singing the whole time, and oh my god, it was your voice that I fell in love with, not your stepsister that I thought it was this whole time. And she gets humiliated, and then the film ends, and I was like, no, you redeemed the character.
Yeah,
you redeemed the stepsister. What are you doing now?
On the other hand, the stepbrother is like just such an obnoxious. Like he's the kind of character you want to see get knocked out or something like that. Like that satisfying, knockout scene that you get in something like American Reunion.
Yeah.
But instead, they just tell each other that they love each other, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. We're supposed to like this character now. Let's go humiliate this other character who's like just a product of the system and her mum being horrible.
And it's a it's a movie, right? It's written, so you can take out the scene where she redeems herself, and it's fine, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I want to go back to this one being the sexiest.
Yeah, please. I'll talk about this all day.
The scene where she's locked outside, like, it is very sex pesty of her little brother. But yeah, so she picks up this pot plant that's got, you know, like, it's a bit of topiary, you know, goodness, where it's got like the pot and then the actual like plant part is a little bit above that, so you can hide it. You can carry that in your front, and it covers your down south regions and also your breasts. And
Thank
so she's
God.
like running around with that, and then it cuts to a shot of her from behind where she's running towards the shed, and she now has it covering her bum, and so she's just running like arms behind her back, full frontal towards the shed. And I'm like, I get you're doing this for the camera, but the character would still want to cover up their front more than their back. I imagine.
Maybe there was a road behind her or something.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I feel like it's human instinct to cover,
Right.
you know, the front.
It's a movie. It's movie magic, bro.
Yeah, and boy, was it magic.
Yeah, I guess watching that scene, and up until this point in all the movies we'd seen so far, I was like, these are kids' movies. These are like, you know, tween-age movies. And then you see Lucy Hale very clearly, like, on set naked, you know, and I'm sure she's got, like, the things you
pasties
use,
and stuff.
But it's like, you know, on a set of a Disney movie, the character would never get naked. You know? So yeah, it was a bit of a, like, and not even in like a you know, warm-blooded man, like, hello kind of way. It was more like a,
hello.
It was more like a, oh, wow. I don't know. It kind of, in a weird way, it added more credibility to the film because it wasn't afraid to, like, to do interesting things with its story, I guess.
Yeah, because they're like, this is what the story requires.
Yeah,
like Lucy Hale's like, I'll only do nudity if it suits the story, and they're like, oh, we've got this real funny scene.
A Cinderella Story 3, I'm in.
Yeah. So okay, I guess we'll just move on to the fourth one then.
Hell yeah, dude.
Which is, oh, actually, sorry, before we move on, I have got a little bit of dumb IMDb trivia for you. So as you mentioned before, this is how it's worded on IMDb, which makes it dumb. Very first Cinderella movie that got a stepbrother and a stepsister instead of two stepsister.
Very first.
Got that.
Got it.
And also, then again, this is funny because of the way it's written. In the scene between Katie and Bev in Katie's bedroom, Bev mentions that Katie could go on American Idol. The actress Lucy Hale was on a spin-off called American Juniors when she was 14, but was as in caps. And it's like we've spoken before about, like, don't put personality in these.
Don't inject yourself into this piece of objective trivia, please.
Yeah, like they were so surprised that they were like, everyone else is going to be just as
They're
surprised.
not going to understand why it's interesting if I don't write was in caps.
So yeah, the fourth film is A Cinderella Story, If the Shoe Fits. 2016. This was directed by Michelle Johnston, directed by a woman. First time for the series. And this one stars in the main role Sophia Carson, who, if you're a fan of Disney Channel, you might recognize her from The Descendants, the like live action Disney spin-off they did of like the children of all the classic Disney villains.
I didn't know that ever came out. I heard about that, but then never
there's like 3 movies and a TV series.
Oh wow,
it's on the list. It's on the franchise list. Yeah, it's on the list.
Who does she play in The Descendants?
I looked at her character's name, but I didn't look to see which like character she's the child of. So if you just want to stall, again.
Hey everybody, it's me again, beloved podcast character Stuart Staller, who I didn't give a voice different from my own. What do you guys think about the tobacco industry? Like, for years they have made money off other people's sickness, other people's addictions. They've been exploiting those who smoke for their own gain. However, I would like to posit maybe the theory that smoking's actually real cool and real good for you, and so you should smoke. Smoking, I told my mum this once. Smoking, I said, Mum, She said to me, I would be so disappointed if any of you boys started because there's only two of us, but either of you boys smoked in your lives. She told me this when I was like 12. And I said, Mum, smoking is one of the coolest things someone can do.
Okay, thank you very much. So she stars as I can't remember the character. I've already forgotten the character's name, but she's the daughter of the evil queen from Snow White.
Very cool.
And
I knew to be someone like that. She's got the look.
Yeah.
She's got the evil queen look.
Does she ever? And she also, interestingly, I just found out she stars in a spin-off, a sequel series to Pretty Little Liars. Where Pretty Little Liars is where Lucy Howell made her name.
Prettier Little Liars?
No, it's called Pretty Little Liars, The Perfectionists. But they only just started airing last year or this year.
Yeah, let's support
it came out like 2 months ago. It's still airing. There's a new episode coming out. Actually, I think the season finale came out a week ago today.
Wow. Bet it was good.
Yeah. No spoilers, please. We haven't watched it yet. And also, so the wicked stepmother is Jennifer Tilly in this movie.
It's perfect. Our theory is confirmed. You go Jennifer Coolidge, Jane Lynch, Missy Pyle, Jennifer Tilly. It's like, yeah, that is 50% of Missy Pyle. Jennifer Tilly. And again, she's fantastic. I thought she was great. This movie.
And what's this film about?
This is our second franchise in a row where there's a sequel set at a resort that probably shouldn't be at a resort. It doesn't really make sense that they're at a resort. So the characters all go to this resort where there is a director putting on a play, and it stars Prince Charming, who's a pop star or something. And to me, I was like, imagine going to a resort. You're there to relax, and then they're like, we're putting on a play. Come be in it. And it's not like it's like a big deal. And the last thing I'd want to do on holiday would be audition to be in a play that's presumably being performed to the other people at the resort.
Yeah, well, you see it at the end, and they're like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
People can't commit to that. What if you got to go home before the play's finished?
Yeah. And what's the play they're doing?
It's Cinderella. They're doing a Cinderella. Now, I wanted to ask you about this. Is it like how you don't like every zombie movie is set in a world where no zombie movies have ever existed, and that's kind of the only way you can make a zombie movie work? Does it wreck the reality of the film to have the characters be aware of the Cinderella story whilst also the insane parallels in their own life aren't really like they might be like, oh, that's kind of ironic, but no, you're telling me you're doing a Cinderella play and you're a downtrodden girl who has an evil stepmom and two evil stepsisters, and then you disguise yourself to meet your Prince Charming, and then you run away and lose your shoe, and he uses the shoe to work out who you are. You telling me you're not going to be like, I don't know. I think these movies work better.
About all this.
Yeah. I think these movies work better living in a world where no one's heard of the Cinderella folktale. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of liked it though. I liked that after all this time, they're finally referencing Cinderella. I 100% get where you're coming from.
Yeah, the disguise that she has in this one is she puts on a wig and a British accent, and no one can recognize her.
Contact lenses and a mole.
Yep, that's true. She is inches away from Jennifer Tilly's face when she's in her disguise. She's like talking to her, and not once does Jennifer Tilly go, "You're my stepdaughter. I can tell because I know exactly what you look like." And if the audience can tell, it's like Superman Clark Kent styles. Like, he's so obviously... She's so obviously the same person, and they've never seen her before. And it's like, that's not how wigs and accents work.
Yeah. I'd hate to watch this movie with Tim Allen, eh?
Why?
Because it's real deep cut. But I showed you that interview with Tim Allen on Conan where he's talking about how he can't watch superhero movies because he's like, I'll be watching the movie and it'll be like, the Hulk will go big, and I'll be like, why has he still got pants on?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Tim
what the
Allen, stop
fuck?
doing jokes that people have been doing for 30 years.
Yeah, and like, how do people not know it's Clark Kent? And then it's like, what are you doing, Tim Allen?
What content is this, Tim?
This interview's from like last year. Look it up. Look up Tim Allen on Conan superhero movies. It's like the most bafflingly out of touch person you've ever seen. And then he talks about a movie he did called Zoom Academy for Superheroes, which he's like, oh, it didn't turn out as good as we wanted, but the script is real good. And it's like, the movie's shit. It's like 3% on Rotten Tomatoes. But anyway, I digress. So this film, yeah, I actually didn't, I don't know, I didn't mind it. I didn't think it was, because you messaged me during it and said, this is the worst one.
Yeah, I just thought it was stupid. The whole resort stuff, all the stuff I've talked about already. I was like, this is stretching the reality of this film too thin.
Yeah, but it also does another sitcom trope of, oh, help, I've got to be in two places at the same once, and the same once. I've got to be in two places at the same time, two places at once, and in two different disguises, and neither of them can know I'm the other one. And then they fuck up somehow. And because when it started, I was like, okay, this is the scene where she gets found out. When she's like, oh, I've got to be here and here. But all she does is put her mole on the wrong side. And she's like, oh, it happens to everyone in my family in Yorkshire Puddingshire.
Yeah, that's where she tells people that she's from. Yorkshire Puddingshire, which is near Hogwarts. It's very cringy scene. I don't know. Yeah, I say it's my least favourite, but if the first one is a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, they sort of fluctuate between 13 and 11 for the sequels.
yeah.
What are you didn't tell me what the Rotten Tomatoes scores are for the sequels.
None of them have any. So
of course, that'll be why.
That'll
Cool.
be why.
All right.
Although I think one of them has like a audience score. I think maybe the second one has an audience score of like 80.
Yeah,
but it's based on like 30 reviews or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is also our second franchise in a row, Richard, where every film but one has opened with a dream sequence. Because the first 5 Bring It On movies opened with a dream sequence, and the second 3 movies in the Cinderella Story series open with a dream sequence. The first one opens with a fantasy sequence, but it's not like the character doesn't wake up from a dream, so it's different. And I guess our third franchise where almost every movie starts with a dream, which is with Final Destination in tow. Yeah, man. Hardcore, dude. We did it. We talked about it.
We did it. And even though we did 4 movies, this is one of our shortest podcasts in quite a while.
No, we still got the segments.
Segments, plural? Jesus.
Yeah, talk about titles.
Right. What?
We'll talk about titles.
Okay, let's talk about titles.
Okay.
Good thinking. So
we talk about
let's
titles
talk about titles on this podcast.
I mean, we've kind of said what we needed to say with
another
Cinderella Story being like Bring It On Again, but it does. I feel like this it reinforces my theory from the Bring It On episode that it's like another Cinderella Story. Like it's not a positive title.
Yeah.
It kind of feels quite like it's not being very earnest with itself. Because no one's ever going to watch another Cinderella Story first either. I reckon that's why you don't see this titling trope happen a lot. It's because it makes it feel like you can't watch it on its own. I think that would you have liked it if they called the third one Yet Another Cinderella Story?
I see this with Bring It On. It's like, I dig the absurdity of that.
Then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, what does if the shoe fits? What does that idiom mean? Because while I was watching, I was like, I don't think I actually fully understand what this, or have looked it up, or have used it enough to know what it means.
It's like, if it looks that way, it probably is that way.
Yeah, I thought it might be that. So
it's
if the shoe fits, wear it.
So it's like, if I were to insult you and you get offended by it, it's like, if you're offended by it, it's obviously true about you.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not like if it looks like a duck, which is a bit different.
Yeah.
If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. It's not exactly the same as that.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
It's like if you look like a fuck and talk like a fuck, you probably are a fuck. Yeah, so don't worry, AJ, because there is a continue the franchise coming.
Oh my goodness.
Not just our pitches, but there is a fifth Cinderella story in the works.
Hooray.
A Cinderella Story Christmas Wish is due to come out this year. I haven't heard of any of the stars, and it doesn't look like they had on the IMDb page for it. It doesn't look like any of them are like older, so I couldn't tell you who the like stepmother is. But.
Damn, that was the piece of information I wanted to know the most. But
Yeah.
even if we haven't heard of her, I probably haven't heard of 50% of Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
You know, so it's probably still applies.
Yeah. All right. So let's continue that franchise. This is a segment where we pitch our continuations of the franchise. So this could take any form. Could be a movie, could be a stage play, could be whatever you want. So what's yours, AJ?
Well, I feel like instead of doing 3 to 4 movies as sequels that are the same thing, surely the more logical choice would have been to do other fairy tales. Like do a Snow White story or a Rapunzel story. And I was like, yeah, I'll pitch that. And then this is the end of my pitch, Richard, because I started to think about them and I was like, none of them are really as like applicable as Cinderella. Cinderella's the one that has you can superimpose into the modern world. Like you couldn't do Beauty and the Beast. Oh my god, you couldn't do like Rapunzel's too weird to do with the hair. From what I know of Snow White, the character doesn't do a lot in that movie, and I don't know how you would do the Seven Dwarves storyline. Yeah. So my continue the franchise is what I thought would be a good idea, but then thought about it more and was like, that's probably not a good idea.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's good for you, man. I'm glad you admitted that. So, I mean, I've got a couple I can spitball here. One would be to go, and I'll probably need your help on this, is to do like the prequel to Cinderella Story. It's just called Cinderella Story, maybe not a Cinderella Story. And it's instead of going half, you go double. So who's twice as famous as Jennifer Coolidge and twice as famous as Chad Michael Murray and Hillary Duff? So it'll be like, I don't know, who's the most famous like girl that age at the moment?
The girl the age of Hillary Duff at the time in 2004.
No, or like now, because to come out now.
I'm going to say like Emma Watson or Emma Stone.
Oh yeah, so Emma Stone star. Oh, she's probably outside of teenage ability. But anyway, let us know who you think. And then like Meryl Streep is the stepmother.
Very cool. Billie Eilish.
Sure, yeah, Billie Eilish.
That's the only teen girl celebrity I know of at the moment.
And then we have another one. Is to do not another Cinderella Story. And so it's like a parody, like, not another teen movie. Yeah. So just parodying the story of Cinderella.
Jennifer Coolidge reprises her role.
Yeah, she would as well.
They all would.
So that brings us almost to the end of our episode. However, we do have to let you know what our next franchise is. And I know what it is. AJ doesn't know what it is. He knows probably what it could be. But we're doing something very special in 2 weeks' time, aren't we, AJ?
Yes.
Because...
No. Yes.
Yeah, so for our next episode, it's going to coincide with the release of our first ever episode. It'll be 3 years to the day since we released our first episode on Lethal Weapon 3 years ago. And so we put up on our Patreon that... we put all of the franchises which we covered in our first year, put them up in a poll and said, which one would you like us to redo? Let us know, and we will redo it. And the winner is, drum roll P, please. We will be redoing a famous episode of ours, the Spider-Man franchise.
Cool. Okay, let's just... So what are the rules here? Because Spider-Man is a bit complicated these days.
Yeah, because there's 4 different canons.
And when we covered it, all we needed to do was the original Raimi trilogy and the Mark Webb duology.
So, how do you want to do this? Because, when we did it last time, we did all 5 movies because we said that doing them all was more interesting than doing half at the time.
Mm.
I reckon we just do all of them. to Web, Raimi, Web, MCU, Spider-Verse, all in one.
And Venom?
I forgot about Venom. Holy shit. Oh my god,
this is so complicated. So we're going to watch Spider-Man Homecoming again.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I've also watched Spider-Verse real recently as well.
Yeah.
All right, well, no, that's
Tough
them's
shit,
the,
man. Yeah,
them's the breaks.
But yeah, so like either that or we do like we do a redo of what we first did and then just like plus 3, like, you know, plus one MCU film plus Spider-Verse plus Venom. So it's like 3 different canons of the same episode.
This is the worst franchise that could have been redone. It's so
I don't know if
complicated.
it's the worst.
No, you're right. If you told me not to look it up, and I thought, because I knew Spider-Man was equal winning, and you told me not to look it up, which made me think maybe something else had won, and I was like, God, if it's actually Medea, I can't do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, I can't. I'm sorry.
And
I
now
actually
you
can't
wish
do it
we'd
if it's
got
Medea. Yeah.
All right. Well, in the next few weeks, you'll be getting some kind of Spider-Man content from us. We'll probably discuss off-pod what the best way to do it is.
But you can feel free. Tell us what you want to see. Maybe you do only want to see the original 5 redone.
Yeah, maybe
again.
you actually just want to see us redo that episode because it was shit.
It was pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I think it's one of our best episodes. Alrighty, where can people find us, AJ?
You can find Cult Popture on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Acast, iTunes, Twitter, and you can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com. Tell us what you think of a Cinderella Story, what you think of our podcast. We've said this before, we're going to be doing like maybe every 2 months we might do a fan mail episode. So if you give us something to, give us some feedback or comment something, leave an iTunes review, we will read it on this show. So
if you give us your reading of a Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song. Speaking of a Cinderella Story, Once Upon a Song, go look up the poster for it. It's real funny. It's really bad.
Is it?
And Lucy Hale looks very awkward and does not look like herself on it. So yeah, if you're at home listening to this and you have access to the internet, which I'm sure you do, look that up.
You say Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Song.
Once Upon a Song is images.
That's so bad, eh?
It's pretty funny. Awesome. It's very weird. It's like cut off at a weird point on her. Like,
yeah.
It's of her face, and the title is too far down the page. There's a lot of headroom up the top above the title, and then it like cuts off just as her neck ends. It's a very strange poster indeed.
Do you know what's funny? We're looking at different posters, but they're equally terrible.
Yeah, so you're talking about the other one where they're all tied up and and microphone cord.
Yeah.
It's the same face.
Yeah.
And she's wearing different clothes in different versions of it.
Yeah. It's so strange.
We should talk about posters more on this podcast.
Yeah, we're talking about a completely visual thing. Alright, anyway, the episode's over.
See you guys. Thank you very much. See you later.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.